The dust clouds swirled around Delilah Whitaker as the stagecoach disappeared down the rutted trail, leaving her standing alone with her single trunk in the middle of nowhere, or more precisely, in the God-forsaken town of Redemption Creek, Wyoming Territory, 1878. At 20 years old, she had finally escaped her stepfather's cruel hand, only to find herself abandoned by the very cousin who had promised her work and lodging upon arrival. "Madam, you planning on standing there till sundown?" A gruff voice cut through her despair. Delilah turned, lifting her chin despite the tears threatening to spill. A man leaned against the weathered post of the general store porch, his face shadowed by a wide-brimmed hat. "I'm waiting for someone," she lied, brushing dust from her threadbare traveling dress. The man pushed away from the post and stepped into the light, revealing sun-bronzed features, a strong jaw shadowed with stubble, and the kindest blue eyes she'd ever seen. "Been watching that stage unload. Nobody's coming," he said plainly. "Name's Fox Yates, folks call me Fox." "Delilah Whitaker," she replied stiffly. "My cousin Marion was supposed to meet me. She runs the dress shop." Fox's expression shifted. "Marion Tanner closed up shop 3 months back, married a banker from Cheyenne." The news hit Delilah like a physical blow. "That can't be her letter." "Post runs mighty slow out here," he said, his voice gentling. "You got anywhere else to go?" Delilah shook her head, mortification washing over her. Her small purse contained barely enough money for a meal, let alone passage elsewhere. Everything she owned sat in the trunk at her feet. Fox glanced at the sky, then back at her. "Miss Whitaker, there's a boarding house down the street. Mrs. Palmer's a good sort. She might need help with cooking and cleaning." "I don't need charity," Delilah said, though her trembling hands betrayed her. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "Didn't offer any, just pointing you toward work. Town's small but decent folks mostly." Something in his steady gaze made Delilah straighten her shoulders. "Thank you, Mr. Yates." He tipped his hat, then surprised her by hefting her trunk onto his shoulder. "I'll walk you there." "That's not necessary. Sun's getting low, and Palmer's is a ways down." He started walking, giving her little choice but to follow. As they made their way down the dusty main street, Delilah observed the modest frontier town. A saloon, mercantile, blacksmith, and a handful of other businesses lined the street, with small houses scattered behind them. Nothing like Boston, where she'd spent her childhood before her father died and her mother remarried. "What brings you to Redemption Creek?" Fox asked. "Besides your cousin." Delilah hesitated. "A fresh start." He nodded as if that explained everything. "Most folks here came for the same." At the boarding house, a 2-story white clapboard building with a sagging porch, they were greeted by a stout woman with silver-streaked hair and keen eyes. "Gladys Palmer," she introduced herself after Fox explained Delilah's situation. "Got 1 room left, $3 a week, includes breakfast, dinner's extra." Delilah's heart sank. "I was hoping to secure employment first." Mrs. Palmer's eyes narrowed. "Can you cook?" "Yes, madam, and so." "I worked in a dress shop in Pittsburgh. My cook quit last week. Room and board for kitchen help plus $2 a month." She crossed her arms. "Trial period first." "I accept," Delilah said quickly. After Fox deposited her trunk in a small but clean attic room, he lingered awkwardly at the door. "Thank you for your kindness, Mr. Yates," Delilah said. He shifted his weight. "Town dance is Saturday at the church. Good place to meet folks." He cleared his throat. "I'll be there." Before Delilah could respond, he was gone, boots echoing down the narrow stairs. The next morning, Delilah rose before dawn to help prepare breakfast for the boarders' 2 traveling salesmen, an elderly widow and a young schoolteacher. By noon, her hands were raw from scrubbing pots, but Mrs. Palmer seemed satisfied with her work. "You're quick to learn," the older woman said as they prepared for the dinner service. "Better than the last girl," Delilah smiled, grateful for the compliment. "I'm thankful for the opportunity." "HMPH, opportunity's what you make it." Mrs. Palmer eyed her speculatively. "Saw Fox Yates walk you here yesterday." "He was merely being helpful," Delilah replied, feeling her cheeks warm. Fox isn't one for idle chatter or charity, keeps to himself mostly, except with his ranch hands. Mrs. Palmer cut carrots with brisk efficiency. His place is just outside town, Yates Ranch, built it up from nothing after the war. Delilah absorbed this information, curious despite herself. He fought in the war, cavalry, don't talk about it much. Mrs. Palmer lowered her voice. Lost his brother at Gettysburg, came west after, like many did. Over the next few days, Delilah fell into the rhythm of boarding house life. She rose early, prepared meals, cleaned rooms, and mended linens. Her muscles ached from unaccustomed labor, but she found satisfaction in the work and in the security of a roof over her head. On Friday afternoon, while hanging laundry in the yard, she spotted Fox Yates dismounting from his horse at the general store across the street. He looked different astride the powerful bay, gelding more commanding, yet at ease in a way she hadn't noticed before. As if sensing her gaze, he glanced in her direction and tipped his hat. Delilah quickly returned to her task, embarrassed to be caught staring. Later, as she was bringing in the dried sheets, he appeared at the back gate. "Miss Whitaker," he called. "Settling in all right," she nodded, gathering the laundry basket closer. "Mrs. Palmer has been kind. She's fair if stern," he hesitated. "About that dance tomorrow." Delilah's heart quickened. "Yes, thought you might like an escort, being new to town and all." Before she could answer, Mrs. Palmer's voice rang out from the kitchen door. "Girl, those sheets won't fold themselves?" "I should go," Delilah said. Fox nodded. "I'll call for you at 7 if that's agreeable." "Yes," she replied, surprised by her own eagerness. "That would be kind." The next evening, Delilah stood before the cracked mirror in her room, critically assessing her appearance. She'd mended her best dress, a faded blue cotton with lace trim, and arranged her chestnut hair in a simple knot at the nape of her neck. Not fashionable by any means, but the best she could manage. At precisely 7 o'clock, Mrs. Palmer called up the stairs. "Visitor for you, girl." Fox waited in the parlor, hat in hand. He'd traded his usual work clothes for clean, dark trousers and a pressed white shirt. His dark hair was neatly combed, though a stubborn lock fell across his forehead. "Miss Whitaker," he said, his voice catching slightly as his eyes took her in. "Mr. Yates." She forced herself to meet his gaze. Mrs. Palmer bustled around them, making no secret of her interest. "Have her back by 10, Forrest. Girls got breakfast to prepare come morning." Outside in the cooling evening air, Fox offered his arm. Delilah hesitated before placing her hand lightly upon it, feeling the solid strength beneath the fabric. "Mrs. Palmer runs a tight ship," he commented as they walked toward the church at the end of the street. Delilah smiled. "She's been fair, as you said, and you, finding your place here." "I'm trying," she admitted. "It's quite different from Pittsburgh. For better or worse," Delilah considered this. "Different. I left in a hurry, my stepfather." She stopped, unwilling to share those dark memories. Fox nodded, not pressing further. West is good for new beginnings. The church was transformed by lantern light and wildflowers. A small group of musicians played lively tunes while townspeople of all ages mingled and danced. Delilah felt eyes upon her as they entered, a stranger on the arm of the usually solitary rancher. "That's Sheriff Doyle by the punch," Fox murmured, guiding her through the crowd. "The woman with him is his wife, Emma. Teaches at the school." Introductions followed: merchants, ranchers, and their families. Delilah's head spun with names, but she was touched by the genuine welcome most offered. "And this is Harriet Simmons," Fox said as they approached a handsome, blonde woman in an expensive-looking green dress. "Her father owns the bank." "Forrest Yates," Harriet said with a bright smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I wondered if you'd attend." Her gaze slid dismissively over Delilah. "And you've brought company, Miss Delilah Whitaker," Fox said firmly. "New to Redemption Creek. How charming." Harriet's tone suggested otherwise. "Working at the boarding house, I hear." Before Delilah could respond, Fox placed a protective hand at the small of her back. "Would you care to dance, Miss Whitaker?" On the makeshift dance floor, Fox's hand rested lightly on her waist as they joined the other couples in a lively reel. "Don't mind Harriet," he said as they circled each other. Her father's been pushing us together since she returned from finishing school. She seems determined, Delilah observed. A wry smile touched his lips. She's determined about the ranch, not the rancher. They danced 3 more sets, and Delilah found herself laughing more than she had in years. Fox moved with surprising grace for such a tall man, and his occasional small smiles felt like private treasures. Later, as they walked back through the quiet town, the night air cool against her flushed skin, Delilah felt a curious lightness in her chest. "Thank you," she said softly. "I enjoyed myself more than I expected." Fox slowed his pace. "Town's not much, but the people are mostly good." "You've been here long." 8 years. Bought land when it was cheap, built it up slow." He glanced at her. "You planning to stay?" The question caught her off guard. "I haven't thought beyond tomorrow, truthfully." They reached the boarding house steps and Delilah turned to face him. The moonlight silvered his features, making him look younger. "I'd like to call on you," he said abruptly. "Properly, if that would be welcome." Delilah's pulse quickened. "I would like that." He took her hand, his calloused fingers warm against her skin, and pressed a gentle kiss to her knuckles. "Good night, Miss Whitaker." "Good night, Mr. Yates." As summer stretched into autumn, Fox became a regular visitor at the boarding house. Sometimes he brought small gifts, wildflowers, fresh peaches from a tree on his property, once a length of pretty blue ribbon that matched her eyes. They walked together on Sunday afternoons, talking of small things and gradually larger ones. Delilah learned about his childhood in Pennsylvania, his time in the cavalry, his dreams for his ranch. In turn, she shared carefully edited versions of her own past her father's death when she was 12, her mother's hasty remarriage, her years working in her stepfather's shop. What she didn't tell him was how her stepfather's hands had wandered, how she'd fled in the night with only what she could carry after her mother refused to believe her accusations. Some secrets felt too heavy to share, even as her feelings for Fox deepened. On a crisp October afternoon, Fox invited her to see his ranch. Mrs. Palmer, ever conscious of propriety, insisted that young Betty, the new kitchen girl, accompany them as chaperone. Yates Ranch lay 5 miles outside town, a modest but well-kept homestead with a sturdy main house, barn, bunkhouse, and corrals. 3 cowboys tipped their hats as Fox helped Delilah from the wagon. "It's beautiful," she said honestly, taking in the vista of rolling grassland backed by distant mountains. Pride flickered in Fox's eyes. "Built the house myself. Started with just the cabin over there." He pointed to a small structure near the creek. Inside, the house was simply furnished but comfortable, with polished wood floors and windows that welcomed light. A bookshelf held an unexpected collection of classics and history volumes. "You read Dickens?" Delilah asked, surprised. Fox looked almost embarrassed. "Winter nights get long." In the kitchen, a middle-aged Mexican woman introduced as Alina prepared coffee and biscuits. "About time he brought a woman here," she told Delilah with a conspiratorial smile. "House needs a woman's touch." Betty, their young chaperone, had wandered outside to watch the horses, leaving them momentarily alone. "Alina's been with me since the beginning," Fox explained. "Runs the house, keeps the men fed, treats me like a son, though I'm her employer." "She cares for you," Delilah observed. "Few people in this world look after each other without wanting something in return," he said quietly. "She's one. You might be another." Before Delilah could respond, Betty returned, chattering about the beautiful horses, and the moment passed. As autumn deepened toward winter, Delilah's position at the boarding house improved. Mrs. Palmer promoted her to assistant manager, allowing her to greet guests and keep the accounts. The additional responsibility came with a small raise and a better room on the 2nd floor. Fox called faithfully each Sunday and occasionally midweek when business brought him to town. Their conversations grew more comfortable, punctuated by lingering glances and the occasional brush of hands. The first snow fell in late November, transforming Redemption Creek into a gleaming white wonderland. Fox arrived at the boarding house unannounced one evening, stamping snow from his boots. "Got something to show you," he said, his eyes bright with excitement. "Wrap up warm." Outside, a sleigh waited, hitched to two matching gray horses. Fox helped her into the seat and tucked thick blankets around her legs before climbing in beside her. "Where are we going?" Delilah asked as the horses trotted through the quiet town. "You'll see." He flashed her a rare, full smile that made her heart stutter. The sleigh glided smoothly along the packed snow road, bells jingling merrily. Fox guided the team up a gentle slope outside town, finally stopping at a clearing overlooking the valley. Below them, Redemption Creek sparkled with pinpricks of lamplight against the snow. Above, stars crowded the vast Wyoming sky, brilliant and countless. "It's breathtaking," Delilah whispered. Fox turned to her, his face serious in the starlight. "Delilah, I'm not a man of many words, but I want you to know that these past months—" He paused, gathering himself. "You've brought something to my life I didn't know was missing." Her heart pounded as he took her gloved hand in his. "I'm asking if you might consider a future here. With me." His voice roughened. "I know it's not much compared to city life, but Fox," she interrupted gently, "I have no desire to return to my old life." Hope flared in his eyes. "Then you'll stay." "Is that a proposal, Mr. Yates?" she asked, boldness surprising her. He laughed softly. "I'm making a mess of this." He squeezed her hand. "Yes, Delilah Whitaker, I'm asking you to marry me." Joy bloomed in her chest, but doubt followed quickly. "There are things about me you don't know." "Then tell me," he said simply. Under the winter stars, Delilah finally shared the whole truth of her past: her stepfather's abuse, her mother's betrayal, her desperate flight west. When she finished, Fox's jaw was tight with anger, but his eyes held only tenderness. "I'd like to meet that man someday." "Why?" "To show him what happens to those who hurt what's precious to me." He touched her cheek gently. "Your past doesn't change how I feel, Delilah. I love you for the woman you are now, strong enough to forge a new path." Tears blurred her vision. "And I love you, Fox Yates. Yes, I'll marry you." He kissed her then, his lips warm despite the cold night, his arms strong around her. When they parted, his smile outshone the stars. News of their engagement spread quickly through Redemption Creek. Most offered congratulations, though Harriet Simmons made her disappointment known by conspicuously avoiding them both. Mrs. Palmer, to Delilah's surprise, seemed genuinely pleased. "Always knew Fox needed a good woman," she told Delilah. "Just didn't expect it'd be you." Plans were made for a Christmas wedding at the church. Alina came to town to help Delilah sew a wedding dress from cream-colored silk Fox ordered specially from Denver. The entire town seemed involved in the preparations, baking, decorating, offering advice both welcome and intrusive. 2 weeks before the wedding, disaster struck. A winter storm more fierce than any in memory descended on the territory. Fox had ridden to Cheyenne on business and was caught on his return journey. For 3 days, Delilah paced the boarding house, fear gnawing at her as the blizzard raged. On the 4th day, Sheriff Doyle brought news. Fox's horse had returned to the ranch riderless. "Search parties are out," he assured her, "but in this weather." He didn't need to finish. Everyone knew what happened to men lost in Wyoming blizzards. Delilah refused to give in to despair. Against everyone's advice, she insisted on joining the search. Bundled in borrowed men's clothing and accompanied by 2 of Fox's most experienced hands. They found him on the 2nd day, sheltering in a line shack 10 miles from town. His leg was broken, his supplies exhausted, but he was alive, barely conscious from pain and cold, but alive. "Knew you'd come," he whispered as they loaded him onto a travois for the journey home. The wedding was postponed as Fox recovered at the ranch, with Delilah moving in as his nurse, propriety be damned. She had declared when Mrs. Palmer objected. Alina served as chaperone and co-nurse, the 2 women forming a formidable healing team. By Christmas Eve, Fox was able to stand with the aid of crutches. "I'm not postponing this wedding again," he told Delilah as they sat before the fire. "I want you as my wife before the new year." "The doctor said you need rest," she protested. "I need you more." And so, on New Year's Day 1879, they were married in a small ceremony at the ranch house. Delilah wore her cream silk dress. Fox stood tall despite his splinted leg, and their closest friends gathered to witness their vows. "I thought I came west to escape," Delilah said later as they sat together on the porch, watching the winter sunset paint the snow-covered landscape in gold and pink. "I never imagined I was running toward something better." Fox's arm tightened around her shoulders. "When I saw you standing alone in the dust that day, something told me you belonged here, not just in Redemption Creek but with me." "A cowboy's intuition," she teased. "A lonely man recognizing his match," he corrected softly. "You were left behind, Delilah, but never again. Whatever comes tomorrow, we face it together." As winter melted into spring, Yates Ranch flourished under their combined care. Delilah proved herself as capable in ranch management as she had been at the boarding house, keeping accounts, organizing supplies, and eventually learning to ride and help with lighter ranch work. Their home transformed 2 curtains at the windows, a vegetable garden beside the house, flowers where only weeds had grown before. In the evenings, they often read aloud to each other from Fox's book collection, expanding it with new volumes ordered from back east. Summer brought cattle drives and long days of work, but also picnics by the creek and starlit conversations on the porch. Delilah discovered a talent for treating injured ranch hands and sick animals alike, earning respect from the cowboys who had initially viewed their boss's city-bred wife with skepticism. In late autumn, as golden light bathed the land, Delilah shared news that brought tears to Fox's eyes their family would grow by spring. Their son, Daniel James Yates, arrived on a bright May morning in 1880 with his father's blue eyes and his mother's determined spirit. 2 years later, a daughter joined them, Sarah Elizabeth, with a shock of dark hair and a laugh that filled the house with joy. Fox proved himself as tender a father as he was a husband, reading to the children each night and teaching them to respect the land that sustained them. By the time Redemption Creek celebrated its first formal Founders' Day in 1885, the Yates family was firmly established as pillars of the community. Their ranch had tripled in size, employing 15 men year-round. Fox served on the town council, while Delilah helped establish a small library and often assisted Dr. Morgan with medical emergencies. On the 10th anniversary of her arrival in Redemption Creek, Delilah stood on the hill where Fox had proposed, watching their children race through summer wildflowers while he completed repairs on a nearby fence line. "Penny for your thoughts?" Fox asked, coming to stand beside her. Silver threaded his dark hair now and lines fanned from his eyes, but his smile remained the same rare and precious. "I was thinking about that first day," she admitted. "Standing in the dust watching all my plans collapse." He took her hand, his fingers familiar against hers. "Regrets?" "Not one," she leaned against his shoulder. "That day I thought I'd lost everything. I couldn't see that I was about to find everything." Fox pressed a kiss to her temple. "I saw a woman too strong to break even when the world tried to bury her." Delilah smiled, watching their children's laughter scatter butterflies into the summer sky. "And I saw a cowboy who offered his hand when everyone else had left me in the dust. Best decision I ever made," he murmured. Together they walked down the hill toward their children and the home they had built not just of wood and stone, but of love, trust, and the courage to believe in tomorrow.